Shir lema'alot esa einai el harimei ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz Al yitain lamot raglecha Al yanu meshamrecha Hine lo yanum velo yishan Shomer Yisrael Adonai shomrecha Adonai tzilcha al yad yaminecha Yomam hashemesh lo yekeka ve'areach balayla Adonai yishmorcha mikol ra Yishmor et nafshecha Adonai yishmor tzedcha voecha me'ata v'ad olam. A song for ascents. I turn my eyes to the mountains, from where will my help come? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. Adonai will not let your foot give way, your guardian will not slumber. The garden of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Adonai is your protection, a guardian at your right hand. By day the sun will not strike you, nor the moon by night. Adonai will guard you from all harm and guard your life. Adonai guards your going and coming now and forever. Today we remember our dearly departed Francis. And that remembering should bring us joy. Today we recall Francis, who precedes us into the world beyond this one. And that recollection should fill us with love. Today we bring her memory to mind, and that act moves us to appreciate our companionship with her. When we miss those who have left us, we must be thankful they were once in our midst. When we think about our loved ones who are no longer physically with us, we must be happy that they were once alive. When we contemplate the unknown, we must remember what has delighted us in this world. And so we are assembled here with the family of Francis Ann Fine. In the darkness that has fallen upon them, and we raise our voices together to the source of life, asking for comfort and strength. We need light when gloom darkens our lives. We need fortitude and courage when pain and loss visit us. May we find those in God and in one another as we search for answers for our loss and seek to know that healing is at hand. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow shares with us these words, a psalm of life. Tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers, and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today. Art is long and time is fleeting, and our hearts, though stout and brave, still like muffled drums are beating. Funeral marches to the grave. In the world's broad field of battle, in the bivouac of life, be not like dumb driven cattle, be a hero in the strife. Trust no future, however pleasant. Let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within and God overhead. Lives of great men and women all remind us we can make our lives sublime and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. Footprints that perhaps another, sailing over life's solemn main, a forlorn and shipwrecked brother, seeing shall take heart again. Let us then be up and doing, with a heart for any fate, still achieving, still pursuing, learn to labor and to wait. Maddie Stepanek, a child, shares with us these words, the way home. Sometimes the way home is love. And sometimes the way home is together. And sometimes the way home is not just love, but loving each other, which is one of the lessons that I learned from Francis. And sometimes the way home is not just together, but together with other people, people you love a lot, people you like a lot, and people you are friends with. But all of the times the way home is every good thing that God told us to do. And Frances lived her life in that way. King Solomon shares with us these words, as translated by Rabbi Rami Shapiro. Life is fleeting, the passing of moments upon moments. Embrace them as they come. Do not cling to them as they go, and this alone is their tranquility. Moments of birth and moments of death, moments of planting and moments of uprooting, moments of killing and moments of healing, moments of knocking down and moments of building up, moments of mourning and moments of dancing, moments of casting stones and moments of gathering stones, moments of embracing and moments of departing, moments of seeking and moments of forsaking, moments of keeping and moments of discarding, moments of tearing and moments of mending, moments of silence, and moments of speech, moments of love and moments of hate, moments of war and moments of peace, moments and the passing of moments. This is life. And King Solomon is reminding us that each moment in time carries with it the chance to be something new. And so we move forward, not looking to fix the past at what has been torn. Torn hearts, a torn fabric of the family, but look at the present to begin the mending of broken hearts and suffering souls. And thus the time of mourning is a complicated time, filled with many emotions and memories, both bitter and sweet. And so we have begun our service this morning with the recitation of psalms and prayers, thus linking Francis's life with the 3,000-year-old tradition of the people of Israel and the eternity of God. Alvin Fine shares with us these words of consolation. Birth is a beginning and death is a destination, and life is a journey from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness and often back again, From health to sickness, and back we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, and from joy to compassion. Grief to understanding, and from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat. Until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination. But life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting, and Frances made each stage of her life a part of that straight sacred journey to life everlasting. And if Frances were here, perhaps she would share with us these words. Say not that I have died, that this is death. Say that I have lived, enjoying each mortal breath. We have learned and labored and wrought what our hands found to do we sought, in quest to raise to nobler height. My life was blessed in the living, my death hallowed because of my giving. Life to me was challenged, and I was happy so to live. And as long as you will continue to love the one whom you are now losing, you will never lose the one whom you have always loved. And Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel reminds us there are 3 ways to mourn. The first is to cry, the second is to grow silent, and the third is to transform our sorrow into song. Thus we will sing the praises of Frances Ann Fine. There is a prayer that a husband recites each Friday night as Shabbat begins. And we will be repeating these same words today in order to pay tribute to all of the blessings that Frances has brought into this world and continues to bless us in new ways as her soul makes its way to the world beyond this one. It begins, Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor, is much to be praised. Her worth is far beyond rubies. Her husband and her family puts their trust in her, and she is never bad to them all the days of her life. In a letter that Frances wrote to her daughter 10 years ago, she outlined what she wished people would say about her on this day. And I will leave it to Evelyn to share with us what was in that letter. What impressed me is how much Frances was indeed a woman of valor, a pillar of strength who built her life around helping others, bringing blessings into their lives. And that was true at Shalom Park, where she lived out the last years of her life, interacting with both staff and residents. And I wish to share with you some of those stories today. When I asked staff who interacted with Frances on a daily basis, all of them commented on how she reached out to her neighbors and her friends in her own special way. A kind word from Frances went a long way in order to make your day complete. The lesson plan of the book of Proverbs continues. She never eats the bread of idleness. Frances was a woman who was independent from the very beginning of her life. In her letter, she talks about caring for her parents and for her husband. And even though Frances may have been limited by her age and her mobility at Shalom Park, I am witness to the fact that she never stopped being idle in her old age. She made it a point for Leslie in the retreat to take her to as many programs as her body would allow. Alan told me that one of the things that Frances enjoyed doing most was swimming. She loved going to the swimming pool in the wellness center, using the buoyancy of the water to help her walk around the kidney area with the current, against the current. I would sometimes watch her from the window in the gym area as she went in circles, and there was always a smile on her face, as though she was back spending summers at the beach at Lake Erie. There were other areas of her life where Frances kept herself engaged with life and with others. She would often have lively conversations with her table mates, and the subjects always were various. I enjoyed listening in on occasion as I made my rounds to the dining room. As Frances changed and her memory began to fade, she would ask me for a special blessing every time I came to the dining room, which I was happy to offer her. And when I offered the wrong one, she would always say, no, Rabbi, the other one. And when I finished her special blessing, she would add, what about the others at the table, Rabbi? Don't they get a blessing too? Another activity that Frances enjoyed up until the weeks of her life was over was her participation in the Shalom Park Choir with Mary Rose. Even when she suffered a stroke a month ago, she would not be deterred from participating in the concert, singing with her friends and shining with her boa around her neck. Such joy is so hard to find. And when I spoke to the choir on Friday to inform them of her passing, the entire group followed Mary Rose's lead, singing Frances's favorite song, Amir Bistashane. I did my best to fight back the tears, for this is the joy that Frances brought to the facility and to all those who were touched by her heart. King Solomon continues, she is clothed with such strength and such splendor. My image of Frances day in and day out was how impeccably dressed she was, complete with her pearls. I've been told by Leslie, who cared for Frances in the retreat, that Frances loved her jewelry. On more than one occasion, Frances would admire the jewelry that someone else was wearing. She would comment on how wonderful it looked on them. And in the next breath, she would offer to buy it from them. And she always had her pocketbook right by her side. I would often run into Frances on Friday afternoons as she was returning to her room from the Spillane, all spruced up for the Shabbat. And I think that I embarrassed her on a couple occasions when I called her gorgeous. For me, it was such a joy to see her radiate in the compliment. My greatest joy, however, came at the end of services on Friday afternoons and Saturday mornings. Frances always insisted on sitting in the front row next to Doris. And I would watch her as she sang along with me the prayers. And there were several times when she would continue without me when I needed to catch my breath. She rarely skipped a beat. And at the end of Kiddush, after I drank the grape juice, Frances would always ask, "Is it sweet, Rabbi?" And my response would be, "How sweet it is." And her smile would fill the room with life that radiated from one wall to the next. Frances made life sweet with her positive attitude, and for this gift, I am eternally grateful to the family for sharing your mother with us at Shalom Park. I know that it will be quite a while before I no longer mourn your loss, Frances. A Yankee Doodle dandy who loved when I took her picture with my camera at various programs, and if I didn't, she would chase me down. King Solomon concludes, she is good, never bad, all the days of her life. Her family comes forward and praises her. Many women do superbly, but you, Frances, surpass them all. And wherever she goes, her deeds will indeed speak her praise. May all those who mourn the loss of Frances Ann Fine be strengthened and comforted by the stories that we tell as we bring healing to broken hearts, knowing that she is at peace as she returns to those who have preceded her in the world beyond this one. We say to the family, Hamakom Yenachem Enachem Betoch Sha'ar Avalei Tzion V'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. I invite Evelyn to share with us a few stories from her perspective.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thanks everybody for being here. You said that these were my thoughts. Oh no, my mom had these all written out for me. Those of you who know her know just how organized she always was. But these are really, really sweet, and she wanted them read by a family member, and so I'm going to share what she wanted to be remembered as with all of you. Hopefully someone will say I was a good person, daughter, sister, wife, mother, grandmother, and friend. Everyone here today and all those she touched throughout her life can attest to this. My family was my pride and joy. I was always thankful to God that I was so blessed. My parents, my husband, my sister, my children and grandchildren. May there be peace in Israel and in all the world. May you continue to have good health and happiness. Now, that's the executive summary. It goes on, but I'd like to share a little bit about my personal memories of my mom. I'm the oldest in the family, and I had this young, beautiful mother. I remember her always with her incredible mane of black hair and her red lipstick and her smile. And I would wait sometimes in the school auditorium. I would be on stage, and I would wait for her to walk in the back doors of the auditorium, and when I saw her, I was so happy, like the show could go on. And my mom goes on in her notes to talk about goodness, which she learned from her parents, and her mom especially, who was probably the nicest person who ever walked the earth. And charity, which she learned from both of her parents. And caregiving. I guess she started by taking care of you, Alice. And Alice and I had lunch yesterday, and she said to me, all I want to say is that your mom, Frances, made my life better in every possible way. And I know my mom felt the same way about you. So she wanted to be the Guten-Ki, the good one, which she was. And she wanted to be the charitable one, which she was. She was too modest to say how absolutely beautiful she was, stunning, how incredibly smart she was. She was so modest. She spoke many, many languages. But it was always my learned father who was the scholar. My mom was a scholar too. She was smart, and she was so nice to us, and she was funny. Aunt Alice and I were talking yesterday about the Gordon sense of humor, which I think came from my beloved grandfather, Sidney. So quick, so funny. and always with a little turn of words that would turn even the saddest situation into a laugh, laughing through tears. That's my mom. And she goes on to say how beautiful and smart her children and grandchildren are, but you all know that. So I just want to say she was a great woman, certainly an Eshet Chayil, and I can email this entire document to everyone. I just wanted to speak from my heart.
Ellen, thank you for sharing, and we will all have an opportunity to tell our stories to one another when we sit down at Shiva. For it is in the telling of stories that we indeed bring healing to broken hearts. One of the stories that Alan shared with me is that her mom worked for JNF, and I have always loved the Jewish National Fund. My grandparents were involved in that and made sure that I remained connected to that organization. I remember licking the stamps and putting it on a piece of paper when I went to Hebrew school. And so Alan said that his mother collected boxes. We all remember those J&F boxes. And she would open them up, and her children would then have to count the coins and roll them by hand. That was sharing and caring. So Henry Wadsworth Longfellow was one of Francis's favorite poets. Another one was Dylan Thomas, and I'm sure you're familiar with this one. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light, and you, my Father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. So let us praise Francis's good name in this world. Each of us has a name given by the source of life and given by our parents. Each of us has a name given by our stature and our smile and given by what we wear. Each of us has a name given by the mountains and given by our walls. Each of us has a name given by the stars and given by our neighbors. Each of us has a name given by our sins and given by our longing. Each of us has a name given by our enemies and given by our love. Each of us has a name given by our celebrations and given by our work. Each of us has a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. Each of us has a name given by the sea and given by our death. I invite you to please rise as we bless Francis Ann Fine. El Malay Rachamim Shechein Bamromim Hamitzei menucha nechona, Tachakan ve'ashchina, Bemalot, Kedoshim u'tehorim, Kezorek yamasirim, Et nishmat Chana Fega bat Sidney ve'edith Shel Chale Olama began Eden Tehei menuchata Ana bal rachamim Astire b'seite knafecha leolamim Utzra b'tzvara chayim nishmata Adonai unechalata V'tanuch b'shalom al mishkava V'namar amen. El Malay Rachamim, exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of Chana Fagel bat Sidney ve'edith, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Amen. You may be seated. God saw that Frances was getting tired, and a cure was not to be. And so God put his arms around her and whispered, "Come with me." With tearful eyes, we watched her suffer and saw her fade away. Although we couldn't bear to lose her, we could not make her stay. A golden heart stopped beating. Hard-working hands laid to rest. God broke our hearts to prove to us that God only takes the best. This concludes this part of our ceremony. We will continue at the cemetery.